things I do want to let y'all know. I don't know about you guys, especially my Texans. You guys know what's up. During this time of year, it's really weird, right? It's like really hot during the day, and then it's like brisk at night. So if I get a little squeak or my throat goes a little off because of my voice, I'm just putting that out there because it happened to me earlier yesterday when I was actually recording a video, which was pretty funny. But um, how are we feeling in here? Let me know inside of the chat where y'all are all tuning in from. I did see some Canadian flags dropped here as well, so shout out to the one and only Canada, of course. All right, we got people tuning in from all across North America. Love to see it. So, like Junior was mentioning, I am really gonna dive into something that I feel that a lot of people either neglect or don't realize when it comes to trading, right? And it's really the emotional execution inside of the markets. Now, I would highly, highly recommend y'all to all, if you're driving, of course, I understand you can't be writing out notes. Shout out to Junior for recording it. You guys can watch it again another time. But I would highly recommend y'all if you guys are at home, grab a notebook, grab a pen, because we're really going to lock in right now. All right. So what I'm really going to go over today is, how to really stay calm under pressure, build discipline, and really turn emotion into an edge inside of the market. So who here can relate with what I'm about to say right now? Have you ever had a trade go exactly the way you predicted? And then right after you closed it, but right after you actually close it out early, drop a 1 in the chat if this has happened to you before. Let me know. And while y'all are dropping those ones in the chat, but also appreciate if we have some cameras on too. All I can see is Junior's handsome face right now. What I'd like to see, we got Tiffany driving on roads. She has her camera on. All right, there we go. Oh, we got a lot of people traveling right now. Okay, you guys don't need to pick up your phone, okay? Focus on the road. All right. All right, love to see the cameras. So we got a lot of people that can relate with that. Now, let me tell y'all something. This is not a technical problem, right? This is all your emotions at the wheel. For the ones that don't know who I am, my name is Siva. I've been in the industry for a little over 6 years now, right? I am about to be 31 here next month. I have a 3-year-old son, and I also have a 3-month-old son as well. So, for my parents out there, man, having 2 kids is wild. Let me just put it that way. But, like Junior was saying, I was blessed to come from individuals that I'm really grateful for the trade house, Jordan Morgan, Zachary Hogan, Mike Miles, right? Rock Coomer, because these individuals really helped me shorten my learning curve when it came to trading. Right. And what I'm trying to do here on this call is kind of help you guys shorten your learning on some of the emotional intelligence that you might be neglecting right now inside of the markets within yourself. So the markets don't punish a lack of knowledge, but it really punishes a lack of emotional control, right? How many of y'all can relate with what I just said there? Right? Because a lot of us, we're hopping on the calls. We're going through the Zenrai live sessions. You guys go through the courses. It's not a matter of a lack of knowledge, because you guys have a fairly decent understanding of the markets as you're going through month after month after month when you're a part of us. But the one thing that a lot of people neglect is that emotional control. See, when I first started inside of this journey, like I said, I've been doing this for a little over 6 years. But one of the things that I very much neglected in my first year of trading was all of that emotional control, right? I was just diving into the markets. I was trading live. And let me tell y'all something. My first year, even though, Zach and Jordan talked about risk management, talked about having a trading plan, all of that, sometimes you gotta mess around and find out, right? If you guys know what I'm talking about, there's supposed to be another word there, but we're not going to say that right now. We're going to keep the call PG-13. But, sometimes you end up messing around and finding out. And I was one of those individuals, right? I was told, hey, you need to have a trading plan. You need to have rules. You need to have risk management. And I didn't do that, right? And for my first year, I was not running off of a systematic approach. I was very much running off of a more of an emotional approach. Kept depositing, and sometimes I would see gains, but overall it was going in a downward spiral. And this is what kind of really pushed me. It pushed me to lose a decent amount of money inside of the markets to then be like, all right, you know what, Siva, you need to stay calm under this pressure, and you need to start building discipline and actually have a plan and walk forward with actual rules and guidelines inside of the market. And this is the thing that's about to happen, right? Is the markets are truly going to test your heartbeat before they test your strategy, right? How many of y'all, drop a 1 in the chat, when you're inside of a trade, your heart is pumping because you're in profits, right? It's like an adrenaline. I don't know if any of y'all in here, I know Junior can relate with this, right? Because, my boy has a Tesla and he loves cranking that car, right? It's the adrenaline rush, right, Junior? You like going fast. It's the adrenaline, right? I do too. Don't get me wrong, right? I love driving fast as well. I like switching lanes. I'm one of those guys, right? If you're going slow in front of me, I'm sorry, but I am switching lanes and I'm getting ahead of you. If you're in the left lane and you're not passing people, get out of the left lane, right? It's that adrenaline, right? How many of y'all have been on a roller coaster, right? For my Canadians, right? You've been on top of the Behemoth or the Leviathan. It's about to drop, right? You're like, oh my God, you get that stomach feeling, right? Your adrenaline is pushing. And then you got the other side of this emotion where you have, what they call cortisol, right? Stress, where you take a trade, you hit stop loss, and now you're stressed out, right? Now you're there like, man, why did I get hit out of this trade? Or maybe you didn't even get stopped out. Maybe you moved your trade to break even too early. Better yet, what I said in the first example, you got in the trade, but you self-doubted yourself and you ended up closing it before it ran. Right? Or, yeah, just like what Blanca said, right? You enter the trade, you get hit out, and then you go in again. But there was no real confirmation. You just like, okay, you know what? It has to go up. And then boom, you press the blue button. Right? Now, as a result, you're literally seeing and thinking less broadly because of this. Right? Your attention is just locking in with that one candle, but you're really not looking at the broader picture, right? Maybe you're just looking at a price level. Maybe you're just looking at your P&L, right? In these case scenarios, you're like, oh man, I took a loss of $100. I'm gonna just get out, right? Even though your stop loss was technically $200, you manage your risk. You saw that negative 100 on your screen and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna get out. See, these are the things that us as humans, right? We all come from a really non-risk type of environment, right? I don't know about some of y'all, right? But if you live life in the day-to-day, right? You go to school, you go to work, there's no real risk in life. If you really think about it, unless if you're in Dallas and you're on the highway, that's a huge risk, right? But, there's no real risk, right? You're kind of just going by day. And that's the thing. Trading is a different type of lifestyle that we are not accustomed to, right? Trading is a different world of emotional control that's involved that you have probably not experienced, especially if you're not somebody that is not used to taking risk. Right? So some of the things, and you know, some of these things might work for y'all. Some of these might, you know, not be something that you guys want to do. But here's some pointers that have helped me. When I first started trading, you know, I am an adrenaline junkie. Like, you know, for my Canadians out there, I used to get a season's pass at Wonderland and I would get the fast lane and I would literally dedicate a day just to go on Behemoth and Leviathan. Those are like the two tallest coasters at Wonderland. And I would just dedicate those days to that. Or I would just go over it and over it and over it and over and over and over again. Right? I'm an adrenaline junkie. Right? My heart goes very fast when I'm excited. That's just naturally who I am. I'm very competitive, right? Even when it came to sports, even now, you know, even before, even with gaming, right? I don't like playing simple run and gun games like Call of Duty. Like I play more challenging games like World of Warcraft or, you know, Fellowship, some of these games where you take the one wrong step inside of the video game, you're dead, right? But in those moments, my adrenaline is pumping. That's just naturally who I am. So some of the things that really helped me kind of calm down is breath work. Right? How many of y'all in here, drop a one in the chat, be real, y'all actually do a little bit of breath work? Right? One of the things that I realized that, and I don't do this as really anymore, to be honest with you guys. I do a little bit of breath work in the rising just so I can get like kind of the blood flowing and my lungs working and all of that. But this is one thing that I made sure I did in the very beginning, because before I would hop on the charts, yo, I was like itching. I'm like, yo, I'm about to go trade. You know, like I'm like, I was amped, right? I was excited and I needed to calm myself down. And I would do 60 seconds of breath work, right? Or even 5 minutes, whatever the case may be, right? Wim Hof, exactly. Right? Shout out to Wim Hof. Right? And it's like, these are some of the things that helped me, you know, simmer down my roll before I hopped on the charts. Right? I started to create more routine than just a task in a sense. Right? Because before it was like, okay, I'm going to get up, hop on the charts. Right? And I would just live, breathe, thinking about the charts. And don't get me wrong, you can still do that now, but you're not just trying to go in and press a button all the time. You have more of a systematic approach to it. Right? Some of the things, and I would totally just take my webcam and spin it around my little office here so I can show you guys. But I have reminders on my screens, right? For some of y'all that know, you know, I got a 8-screen setup here because, you know, I got to look at everything simultaneously. That's just how I am. I'm personally not an individual that likes trading and traveling. You know, shout out to Junior for doing that. I know Boy will go on tour and be taking trades on his phone. That's just not my thing. But when I'm at home, I make it so I remind myself of things, right? Right here at the bottom of my screen, it says set limits after my analysis. Because there's been so many times where I'll analyze something and I'll forget to set a limit or set an alert. And now I'm sitting there like, man, I missed my setup and I should have been in there. And due to that, me missing a setup, now that same day, then I'll go and try to look for something else and end up hitting stop loss. Right? It's like, how can I self-control those things? Right? Another notice that I have here right on my upper monitor, right above my camera here. Patience pays, wait for sniper entries. Right? Less is truly more inside of this markets, everybody. Right? We don't need to be looking for a position every single moment of the day. One of the biggest things that a lot of traders do and end up quitting in this industry, it's literally due to over trading. If they simply took less trades and had more quality setups, their accounts would have thrived more. Let me be completely honest with y'all. Wednesdays and Fridays are probably my 2 days where Wednesdays, unless if it's FOMC or there's some crucial news event, I'm not pressing buttons. Instead, I'm analyzing and waiting for the market to set something up for the Thursday. Fridays, generally, unless if it's NFP, I'm not participating in the market. Now, am I telling you guys to do the same thing? No. But what I'm getting at is the only way I've come to a conclusion and I've narrowed down those 2 days to avoid it is due to the fact that I have a journal, I have documentation on myself that shows that those particular days are actually my 2 least profitable days outside of those particular news events. If I trade outside of that news event window, I'm generally 10 to 20% accurate on my setups. And I can tell you these numbers because I've done the work and I know it. How many of y'all can say that same for yourself? Do you know the session that you perform the best on? Maybe there's a certain day of the week that you perform better on compared to the others. These are those documentation things that a lot of traders neglect inside of their trading, right? So this is what it comes down to, having that systematic routine approach, right? So why was I talking about the breath work and all of that? I'm not saying being calm is going to make you emotionless, right? People say trade with no emotion. It's like, bro, I'm not a robot. I can't just be like, all right, emotion out the window. No, that's not how it works, right? We're human beings. We have emotion. But what I'm telling y'all to do is having more of that calm, that stillness is going to allow you to become more emotionally aware than becoming more emotionful, right? You can't control the wave, but you can learn how to surf on it, right? You can't control the wave, but you can learn how to surf on it. And that's how we need to be with our emotions. So now we're going to dive a little bit more into like the discipline side of things, right? Building discipline over impulse. Okay. Your trading plan is the pilot, right? Your trading plan is the pilot. Your emotions are the passenger, right? So if you guys don't get what I mean, when you guys hop on a plane, you're not the one actually flying the plane. I mean, if we're really trying to put our tinfoil hats on for a second, I mean, pilots aren't really even flying their plane either. They land and they take off, but after that, they're kind of hitting cruise control. But what I'm getting at is, let your plan be that thing that's guiding you to your destination, and your emotions are the passengers, right? Now, really, the reason why I'm saying this is, when you have a strict plan and guidelines, your emotions kind of go out of the window. What I mean by that is this: if you have strict rules, strict risk management, actual cut and right, hey, this is why I'm getting in, this is why I'm getting out. The feeling of, oh, it needs to go up or it has to go here, those emotions start to veer away. I'm not going to say that it's going to happen right off the bat the first day that you do this. But over time, when you start to track yourself, you're going to start to notice, okay, wait a minute. I had my plan and I still didn't follow it. And you're going to catch yourself. Sometimes you need to make a mistake 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, like I told y'all earlier, I had to make mistakes for 6 to 12 months before I really locked in, right? We all have our different reasons for that. But that's like the main thing, right? This discipline starts to become the structure of things. It's not about the motivation anymore. I mean, all of you here know what trading can do for you, right? It's not a question at this point, right? You don't need to be motivated to learn how to trade. Right? You guys know what this can do for you. Or invest. I mean, whatever your guy's case may be. Now, journaling every trade, what I mean by that is you guys need to be really breaking down and going through what you are entering on, why you are exiting, what's your strict guidelines to get in and out, defining some of your daily limits, right? What's your maximum level of attempts that you might have for a day or a week or a month, right? Depending on what y'all are doing. And over time, this is going to start building a level of trust in yourself, right? Because if you're that individual that I was talking about earlier, where you entering a trade, but then you doubt yourself and you get out, or you enter a trade and you pull out before it actually hits your stop loss. And if you simply just left your stop loss intact and didn't get out, you would have been able to be in the position. These are those things that you're essentially not trusting yourself, and you're not giving yourself enough time to develop that trust. Right? So I know what I'm about to say here next is very cliche, but consistency is a huge part of this, 100%. But just because you're consistently showing up to the charts every day doesn't mean that you're a disciplined person. Right? It's like, just because you walk into work every day doesn't mean that you're the one that's performing the best at that job. Right? You actually have to do the things behind the scenes. See, I used to be an Amazon driver in Canada, and I was actually within the top 5 percentile of my entire warehouse. Right? I had about a 95% delivery rate. And I'm not saying this to scratch, my own back. That's not what I'm getting at. But me, even though I was doing Amazon or whatever I was doing, even now with trading, that consistency is there because I was disciplined, right? A lot of the other people didn't have good delivery rates because they wouldn't go and attempt that second time in the day, or they wouldn't call the customer, right? These are acts that you needed to do as an Amazon driver that people neglected. Now, you as the trader, I mean, you guys can already know what I'm about to say right now. What are the things that you are neglecting on doing? Right? If you guys are taking notes, write those down right now. I don't need to tell you, because you know what's holding you back right now. Let's move on. Next thing, right? Self-sabotage. Oh, man. Man, oh, man. Now, anything that I'm talking about here, everyone, these are things that I've literally gone through, okay? Now, what are some examples of self-sabotage? I mean, cutting your winners early, that's one. Moving your stop loss too early, or moving your stop before it gets your threshold of your rules of breaking even, or even another one that I spoke about earlier, over trading. And here's one that I feel that a lot of people in the industry are doing right now, and that is blowing a bunch of funded accounts. Right? Man. It's like so many people in this industry that I've seen, like, me and Junior have been here for over 6 years now. And I mean, I know me and him both have seen a lot of people come and a lot of people go. But I feel that one of the biggest things, Junior, wouldn't you agree? I feel like a lot of people quit due to funding accounts, right? People will go challenge after challenge, trying to go for that 100K because they're like, you know what? All I need to do is make 2% and I can quit my job, or 3% and I can quit my job. And they're so anxious to try and quit their job and cancel their only stream of income. And They're trying to manage money that they simply have never managed before. How many of y'all in here have, outside of trading, have managed $100,000? I mean, some of us in here have not even done that, let alone managed $10,000, right? You know, maybe there's some people that have, but see how only one person said me. So the average person is not used to managing money. So I'm not saying anything about funded accounts, right? I can't even speak about that due to compliance purposes anyways. I'm not saying, you know, completely disregard it. That's not what I'm getting at. But remember, guys and girls, that trading isn't just margin trading, right? There's investing, there's stock options. I mean, you guys have every different type of avenue here in Zenrai. And for the ones that aren't a part of Zenrai, we do offer every single part, right? You have options, you have stock investing, you have cryptos, leverage trading, there's Forex, there's commodities, there's indices, right? There's so much to take advantage of. But instead of trying to take the process like a turtle, some of us try to act like the rabbit and try to speed things up by going through the funded route. Or some of us try to only focus on margin trading, where I've heard of so many students, right? I've actually talked to someone recently about this. I'm not going to say any names, of course, but you know, this individual told me that last year they dropped $3,000 on funded challenges and didn't get one withdrawal. Now I can just think about how many things that we were looking at last year that I mean, Ethereum is the biggest example, that you could have bought a couple of ETH, right? You could have bought a couple of ETH and held on to that and actually done something instead of just trying to go into account after account after account, right? So what I'm getting at here is don't try to rush the margin side of trading, because let me tell you guys something. That is the most hardest way of trading. Me and Junior both can say this. Investing, you know, putting money somewhere, buying something at a low and leaving it there and allowing it to grow is probably the easiest, most mindless thing that we could do. Right? Don't you agree, Junior? Right? Like buying Bitcoin in 2022, right? At 16K. I know some of y'all might have not been here during that time. But don't try to rush margin trading. Okay? Now, here's the other thing, right? Going back to the self-sabotage. Some of us might be subconsciously trying to protect ourselves from being wrong or experiencing failure. Now, trading is that one industry where you can actually be wrong more than being right and still gain off of that. I'm the perfect example of this. Most times throughout the year, especially during the summer, I have a 30 to 40% win rate, but I'm still profitable. How is that? Because I go for higher risk reward setups and I'm waiting patiently. I'm not pressing a button almost every single reaping moment of the day. That's not what I'm doing. But what you guys learn here, you don't need to be accurate all the time. I mean, you guys aren't going for 1-to-1s or 1-to-2s, you know? It's different. So you need to be open with experiencing failure. I know it's challenging because we all come from a world where, you know, you need to get 95 on a test to be good, right? Or to be, you know, that perfect person. But in trading, you don't need to be perfect, right? I mean, what Patrick Kenny teaches you in options is literally what I'm talking about. You don't even need to be right, and you can still win. Right? Drop a 1 in the chat if y'all have been on Patrick Kenny sessions, right? And you guys are taking advantage of options. Because, man, what is he at right now, Junior? Like 80-0 or something? Since he started Zenrai? Like, bro's crushing it.
Yeah, something crazy, bro.
Yeah, it's wild, right? And what he's doing I'm taking advantage of it. I'm margin trading, but I'm also taking advantage of options. Why wouldn't you? Right? So, how do we start fixing these things? Right? I'm talking about all these problems, but how do we start fixing these things? Right? Number one is awareness, right? Start to recognize what that emotional trigger is for you when these types of things happen, right? Are you just bored and you're trying to press a button? I get it, right? Or do you feel like that person where you're like, okay, I showed up to the chart, so I have to take a trade, right? That's why I'm telling you guys, this is very much different than a job. When you go to a job, you need to perform acts of duty there to reap money at the end of the day, right? But trading is not like that. Just because you show up to the chart doesn't mean you have to make money that day or that hour or that minute. This is not the same thing, everybody. It's not. So we need to change that. Okay? Accountability. Record your setups, right? If you need to, download a software like OBS, you have your mic, maybe you start to record your analysis, right? Start to document your analysis. Maybe you don't want to go that route. You screenshot, do whatever you got to do to document your progress, everybody. Right? I'm telling y'all, man, this is the thing that everybody does not do. Right? If I were to tell every single person in this call to turn on their cameras and show their journal, I would probably get 10, maybe 20% of the call doing that. Because most people genuinely are not documenting and recording themselves. Okay. Now, this one might hurt a little bit, but it might not. If y'all, you know, the biggest losing trade isn't on the chart, it's your mindset. All right. I'm going to say that one again. The biggest losing trade isn't on the chart, it's in your mindset. Right? It's that, oh, I don't need a journal, or oh, I don't need to do this. Or it's like, I'm going to just go and take this. You're neglecting the emotional awareness. So now we're gonna dive a little bit deep into, turning these emotions into an edge inside of the market. Right? But like I said earlier, you're never gonna remove emotion, right? You're never gonna remove emotion from trading. We're human beings. But you can use it as data analysis for yourself. Right? Just like how you guys technically analyze the market or back test, you need to start to technically analyze yourself and back test yourself. Emotions start to reveal information on yourself. This reveals fear in positions that you might be taking. This also shows excitement, right? This is why, personally, for myself, right, one of the main reasons why I have 8 screens is because one of them has Forex Factory on it. Another one over here has, usually this far left one is like my chat screen. So it's like Telegram and WhatsApp over here. And then these 4 right here are my charts. So like I'll have gold or dollar, or, when I'm looking at gold, I have silver on another chart, multiple time frames. And then over here, this also might be another chart. But right here, the one that's right beside my main screen, this is my journal screen. Whenever I'm looking at the market or I'm actively in a position, this screen always has a journal on it. Right? And the reason for that is because I'm typing everything. Right? I have horrible handwriting half of the time. I mean, you guys can ask my wife, she knows. Half of the time I can't even read my own handwriting. So that's why I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go digital. Right? It's easy. I type faster anyways. But what I'm getting at here is I'm recording every little thing. Like, even if there's a slip thought of, oh, I feel like this trade is not going to go my way because of this. I'm writing that down. Why am I doing that? Because now, once that trading day is over or that week is over, I'm going back and reflecting on it and I'm starting to learn and create emotional awareness on myself, how I react to certain things. And this is how you know, right? This is how you know how you're acting in a certain way into the market. Instead of reacting, observe that feeling from your journals, right? Start to study your emotional tolerance, right? Start to understand what's your trigger, right? You're starting to notice these triggers. And this can truly help you guys all start to learn to read your own psychology, right? It's just as much as a lot of y'all are, spending so much time reading the charts, you really need to start reading your own psychology. Here's here's one of the things that I feel that a lot of people go through just because I don't know about you guys, but when I started my trading journey, a lot of my close friends and family did not support me at all. I didn't even show my mom about this until I actually started to see some progression in myself. She actually low key thought when I went in the basement, I was on the computer that I was just gaming, but I was just on the charts. I was studying. I was doing what I needed to do. Drop a one in the chat if you relate with what I'm talking about here, right? And this is kind of one of the scariest things that you could really go through, to be honest. Like the people that you grew up with, maybe it's your own family and your own parents, they don't believe in you. That's a different needle in the heart. If you guys get what I'm saying, right? It hurts a little. And that fear of success is sometimes the scariest moment that can allow us to lose. When in reality, you should flip that. And this is when you should start winning because you should turn that fire that's burning you on the inside and let that be the fire on the outside that's literally letting you push forward, right? Use it as the fire to be like, you know what? I'm going to prove these people wrong. I'm going to be a part of that 1% of people in the world. Because let me tell y'all something. Only 1% of the people in the world are really trading and investing. Right? As a full-time thing. I mean, that's what, the cash flow quadrant says. I mean, who knows in reality? Maybe it's even less than that. But this fear of success is almost foreign to us, right? Especially when it comes into trading, because this is simply something that, pressing a button and being able to reap the reward, it's different, right? It's not the same like other things that we've done in our lives, right? It's not. So we got to start normalizing this success by repeating certain routines, by anchoring that calmness within ourselves and not creating euphoria, right? Now, I know, once again, we can't control our emotions, but we can understand them, right? You are going to go through euphoria. I mean, how many of y'all, I mean, shout out to Mike Sotero, right? He called out ICP at like $3 or $2.50 or something. And, some of y'all have been able to see, a little under a 3x. I mean, you're going to feel that, right? Yeah, I know. I mean, there's so many lists of things that I could go over right now that have been called out within our educator community. Um, my biggest has probably been Robinhood at like $11, you know, but don't get me wrong, you're gonna feel like, yes, I got that win, whatever the case may be. But now start to get that emotional awareness with yourself. right? I'm not saying don't celebrate the wins, but start to control and learn about yourself, right? Learn the triggers. Now, failure really does start to test your resilience. And this is why, I was talking about failure earlier as well, because especially when you guys have a lower accuracy rate, this really does start to test your resilience. Are you going to be able to continue going? Because success tests your identity. And at the end of the day, you need both, right? You need failure to build that consistency. And then success is going to test your identity. Are you going to be, on some crazy euphoric state all the time? Because sometimes you're in that crazy euphoric state, you start to make wild decisions. You know, you're like, oh man, I hit 10K on this trade. I'm going to go to the Gucci store and drop a whole bag on a bunch of stuff. Right. Instead of maybe snowballing that, now you're going towards building materialistic things for you that, I mean, if you like that stuff, I mean, cool. But at the end of the day, we want to continue preserving and growing our wealth, right? So I'm going to wrap up things with this, right? Mastering your emotional execution doesn't make you perfect. It makes you consistent, and the consistency compounds. This is why tools like the Magic Conch exist, is to help traders to make decisions with clarity and not with chaos. All right. I appreciate y'all for having me on this call. If any of you have any questions or, anything, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll be here for the next couple of minutes. But Junior,